There are clowns meant to make you laugh, and then there is the one you were warned never to smile at. Because once you understand why he never laughs, you won't be able to sleep the same way again. If you feel uneasy already, that's a good sign. Stay with me, watch until the end, and if at any moment you feel like something is watching you too, let me know in the comments. No one in my town could remember when the clown first appeared. It felt like he had always been there, standing perfectly still near the abandoned fairground at the edge of the forest. He wore a faded costume that might once have been bright red and yellow, but had long since dulled into something closer to dried blood and old bruises. His face was painted a stark white, with cracks running through it like a porcelain doll left too long in the cold. His eyes were dark, hollow voids. And most unsettling of all, his mouth was stretched into a permanent, painted smile that never moved, never trembled, and never ever laughed, no matter who passed by or what was said to him. Growing up, we all knew about him. Children dared each other to get close, to touch the peeling paint on his shoes. Teenagers, emboldened by youth and cheap beer, would drive out to throw rocks and insults, trying to get a reaction. The adults, they just pretended not to see him at all. Because admitting he was there meant admitting something was deeply wrong with our town, something festering just beyond the tree line. But the strangest part was the rule. It was a rule everyone knew, without ever being told. You must never try to make him laugh. There was no written warning, no signpost. It just lived in the air, in whispered conversations and uneasy glances. It was a superstition older than the town itself. I remember when I was a child, my mother would grip my hand tighter whenever we drove past the fairground. She'd say, "Don't look at him," her voice strained, but she never explained why. The fairground itself was a local tragedy. It had been closed for decades after a fire that claimed the lives of several performers. Among them, a clown whose name had been completely erased from every record, as if he never existed. The rides now rusted in place, skeletal remains of forgotten joy. But the clown remained, untouched by time, untouched by rain or decay. As I grew older, I started to notice things others seemed determined to ignore. Little details that made my skin crawl, like how his shadow never quite matched the position of the sun, or how sometimes, when you weren't looking directly at him, you'd swear his head was angled just slightly differently, as if he had been watching you walk away. The first time someone broke the rule, I was in my final year of high school. A boy named Lucas, known for his arrogance and desperate need for attention, decided to prove the clown was nothing more than a prop, a long-running prank, or maybe a shared hallucination fueled by small-town boredom. One evening, after drinking too much and laughing too loudly, he marched up to the clown with his friends filming on their phones. He shouted jokes, told knock-knock riddles, and mocked the painted smile just inches from his face. When the clown didn't react, Lucas grew frustrated. He screamed, "Laugh already," and pushed the clown's chest with his finger. According to those who were there, the world seemed to go quiet in that moment. The air itself felt like it had been sucked away, and then the clown's smile widened. Not upward, but downward, stretching unnaturally until the white paint cracked and peeled away, revealing dark, wet skin beneath. For the first time in anyone's memory, the clown made a sound. It wasn't laughter. It was a low, choking wheeze that echoed across the fairground like something dying slowly, painfully. And Lucas stopped laughing. His face drained of all color, because he realized the sound wasn't coming from the clown's mouth. It was coming from his own. Lucas disappeared that night. His friends were found wandering the forest hours later, screaming incoherently about mirrors and teeth and hands pulling them apart from the inside. The video on their phones was corrupted. Every frame was distorted except for one single, terrifyingly clear image. The clown, standing alone, his head tilted, his smile completely gone. After that, the unspoken rule became a spoken command. Parents warned their children explicitly. The town council put up signs telling people to stay away from the fairground. The road leading to it was eventually blocked off, but you could still see him through the trees, a pale figure always watching. That's when I began having dreams about him. Dreams where I was standing in front of a cracked mirror, wearing his costume. I'd be frantically trying to scrub the paint from my face, but it wouldn't come off. And behind me, a silent crowd would be begging me to laugh so they could finally leave. The dreams grew worse after my younger sister Emma went missing. She was last seen riding her bike near the forest. When the police asked if she might have gone to the fairground, my stomach dropped. I remembered how she used to talk about the clown, not with fear, but with a strange curiosity. She'd ask why he looked so sad, why no one ever tried to cheer him up. Despite every warning I had ever received, I knew I had to go there. Something deep in my gut told me that whatever had taken Emma was waiting, patiently, exactly where it had always been. The fairground was eerily silent when I arrived. The only sound was the wind, rattling broken signs and rusted chains. And the clown, he stood at the center of it all, but he seemed closer than I remembered. His costume looked cleaner, as if it had been freshly washed. For the first time, I noticed something carved into the wooden post behind him. Words etched so deeply they looked like scars. They read, "He laughed once." As I stepped closer, my heart pounding in my chest, I realized the clown's eyes weren't empty at all. They were filled with a familiar, screaming terror. And I understood then, this wasn't a creature pretending to be human. It was a human who had been trapped in this role for so long that the costume had become his body. A punishment for something I could barely comprehend. A voice filled my head, not spoken aloud, but clear as day. It told me the story the town had buried. The story of a performer who had been forced to smile through humiliation, abuse, and pain. His job was to make others laugh, while his own suffering was dismissed as part of the act. Until one night, during the fire, trapped beneath falling beams and choking on smoke, he had laughed. Not out of joy, but because he finally realized no one was coming to save him. And that single, broken laugh had twisted into something eternal, binding him to this fairground, forcing him to feed on the disbelief of those who refused to see his pain. The voice told me the rule was wrong. The danger wasn't in making him laugh. The danger was in trying to ignore his pain. Those who mocked him, who demanded laughter, were pulled into the same prison of smiles and silence. I begged him to let Emma go. I promised I would do anything. The clown's painted hand slowly lifted, pointing toward the old hall of mirrors, a decaying building I had avoided my entire life. Inside, I found reflections that didn't belong to me. Rows upon rows of faces, all frozen in exaggerated, pained grins. I saw Lucas. I saw others I recognized from missing posters that had hung in the post office for years. And then I saw her, Emma, standing perfectly still, her face pale, her mouth trembling as if she were holding back a scream. The voice told me there was only one way to free her. I had to take her place. I had to wear the costume and carry the smile so she wouldn't have to. As the realization settled over me, the clown stepped forward. His form blurred, thinning until the costume seemed to peel away from him and wrap itself around me. The fabric was heavy with years of sorrow. The paint burned as it covered my skin. And I felt my own mouth stretch into that terrible, unmoving smile, locking into place as the world outside the mirrors faded to black. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing at the edge of the fairground, perfectly still, unable to move, unable to speak. In the distance, I saw Emma run into the arms of the police, sobbing and alive. The town rejoiced, grateful for a miracle they would never question. Years have passed since then. The fairground remains closed. The clown still stands where everyone can see him if they look closely enough. Sometimes children ask why he never laughs, why he looks so sad. Their parents pull them away, repeating the old rule, unaware that I am listening, that I remember everything. That I feel every joke thrown at me like a blade. The smile on my face is not a warning. It's a sentence. Because the clown who never laughs is not waiting for someone to make him laugh again. He is waiting for someone to finally understand why he can't. If this story stayed with you, don't leave alone. Subscribe to this channel, like the video, and explore the other stories waiting for you here. Because once you start noticing the ones that never laugh, they start noticing you too.